Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me, Dave Knight, for this week's podcast, which is number 65 in our weekly releases. A huge warm welcome to you all as we get straight into this 9 pm Sunday Settler. These weekly individual podcasts are wrapped up into tailored Bulletproof Yourself wellbeing packages, and you can access those via my website, sundaysettler.com, clicking on the Bulletproof Yourself page. This week's Sunday Settler is entitled Trusting Yourself to Shine, and I'm going to be exploring the concept of life changing rooms that we find ourselves in on a day-to-day basis, whether that be in our careers, business, sport, relationships. And we'll discuss the powerful meaning of a mantra that I heard so many times when growing up and how it encompasses many aspects of our well-being. So please get yourself into your relaxing space. This is your 10 to 15 minutes of me time. I recall those times when travelling to those bigger football matches and that I was involved in, or before going to those matches where we knew the opposition really well, our rivals. We knew there would be some arguments, some scuffles in the match. And there was a saying that I heard so many times, and it's really stuck with me, it's really resonated. Let your feet do the talking. I guess in terms of a footballer, those terms of reference fits really well, doesn't it? But I never quite realised, up until recent times actually, how much of that message I take into everything that I do, particularly in business. And predominantly it's about life positions and knowing your worth. And it's quite important, isn't it, for us to know our worth, isn't it? It really is. And I'll try and explain as best I can, and I hope it's something you can relate to in some way, or you might be able to share this with someone else if they're going through a challenging time at the moment. But in our football changing rooms, before a match, I remember we had lots of different personalities. Those people that would make others laugh, start the banter, say to the coach, I'm this, I'm that, I need to be playing here or there. You should pick me. Why haven't you picked me? Those players that would question the coach's decision on why they were substitute, let's say. In most of the teams that I played for, I was lucky enough to be captain, and I wasn't necessarily the quietest, but I was one of the quietest. And I guess it was just a different way of leading by example, making sure my shirt was tucked in, my collar was down, my sleeves were rolled up, all those kind of things, as well as the way that I obviously tried to play the game too. But then when we crossed the line, it was like a switch turned on and I became a different animal. But coming back to the changing room side of things, I never felt like I needed to shout I was the best at this or that, to be the loudest. I guess I was just quietly confident in my ability and trusting myself for my talent to come through most of the time anyway. But I can't deny that I did sometimes look at those players and think, I wish I had the confidence to stand up and say, look, I'm good, I'm the best. But moreover, I just didn't have that personality to be in other people's faces in that way. It certainly wasn't about thinking I was better than others. It's not like that at all. I just knew my position, my role. I knew I was equal to everyone else as a person. And then, as I say, when we crossed that white line, that message, let your feet do the talking, really came into play, and I felt able to express myself for that 90 minutes. And that worked for me to a level though, because only to a certain level, because I can see how not having that personality to be in people's faces, metaphorically speaking now, can put people on that kind of thing can actually put people on the front foot, can't it, initially, and leave you feeling like they are better than you, and you start to compare yourself against others. And psychologically, if you're coming back from injury, as was the case for me in the latter part of my footballing days, or you're having a trial at a new team and you don't know the coach and the players, that kind of thing, where people don't know you, those people who were able to give it the big I'm the best, you should pick me, they would very likely to be slightly more ahead than you, be listened to, perhaps get more opportunities, even superficially so, and not for the right reasons. And even if there was no substance to their claims, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about here. And at those times, the doubt can start to kick in, can't it? And am I really as good as what I believe to be the case here? Why don't I trust myself as much as I used to? So, with that in mind, I'm just going to move away from the football talk now. But what if we applied the concept of those changing rooms to our general lives? We could even call it our life changing room, our business changing room, our relationship changing room, our job changing room, social media changing room. We could call it whatever we like. We really can. And let's say in a career changing room, what if we're producing the goods behind the scenes and have been working so hard to please the boss, so we can work towards that promotion that we've wanted for a long time now. And yet our colleague, however, is the one that is always jumping and saying, and jumping up and down and saying, look how hard I've been working, I've done this and that. And they get noticed more with praise as a result of that. How about in our business changing room? What if we have a product that we know will be so useful to people, and it's better than many other products out there, and will have so much impact for others? How about our social media changing room? What if others have more friends or more willing to share their stories or their ideas of their progress and have so many more followers or people liking and sharing things that relate to their posts compared to ours? And this is where the meaning of let your feet do the talking really comes into play. It takes on a whole new meaning and can be really impactful. And it certainly has done for me. It really helps with life positions in general, which we've spent more time on in other weekly podcasts. In truth, there will always be times when we see people drumming up their abilities more than we do. We might see people who are being more overtly confident in their abilities. Others being more able to showcase their information on their products. There might be others who are telling the world that they are this and that. Someone is wanting to impress in a manner that you would only cringe at doing. So that aside, there's always someone who's doing something that you're not. And there's absolutely no judgment on that, by the way. There's no judgment on people who do that kind of thing, by the way. That is completely okay. It really is. I've also needed to do that at times in my life, and certainly in business, when a potential big client wants to hear how good you are and how you will impact their service and will save them money before they book with you. You need to go and show them, don't you? You really need to go and show them. However, if that does not feel like the most natural way to approach things for you, it's also okay too. In my opinion, letting your feet do the talking encompasses a much more broader feel to your life. It's a solid foundation for you. Just knowing yourself and where you're coming from, and being happy with that. Knowing your position. Not that you're better than the next person, not that you're better than anyone else. It's just knowing that you're at least equal. You're equal to all those around you. Having confidence in your ability. Having self-reliance. Being established and respected. Knowing your worth. Trusting yourself. Having faith in your ability despite what others might be telling you on a day-to-day basis. And acknowledge that whatever you are and whoever you are, that will shine through in the end. It really will. And there's so much to letting your feet do the talking, perhaps, that we can't really cover in such a short space of time. But perhaps it's worth considering that those encompassing aspects that I've just mentioned are things that we are all born with. We are inherently confident. We inherently have faith in our ability. We inherently trust ourselves. And so if we don't believe in ourselves, if we don't have confidence, they're just things that we've learnt not to have over time, but we inherently have those things. But having those things are our home base, if you like. They're our starting positions, our starting life positions, and they are our natural state, and believing otherwise may indicate we've just moved away from our home base, that's all, from our natural well-being state for some reason. And for example, if we're comparing ourselves against others, we're carrying the burden of an opinion of someone else. We're coming back from injury, as I mentioned earlier, as what happened with me. And we start to doubt ourselves to perform at the same level that we know we can. We haven't achieved our pressured goals, or someone has told us we can't do this or that. And if that happens, we can always remember that we've got this far. So we must have been successful. We must have been successful in our own way. And we have made it to this point, and we've always got ourselves. And coming back to home base and knowing ourselves as we do, we can always just get back to letting our feet do the talking. In this podcast, I've shared my experience of being in a sporting changing room, and then explored how the same concept can actually be applied to any of our life changing rooms that we find ourselves in on a day-to-day basis. And knowing our life position and our worth, and understanding that these are natural starting points, is important. And this is because there may be times when we start to compare ourselves to others, when we doubt ourselves, or someone gives an opinion of us. In that moment, we can catch it, and always be able to rely on ourselves and trust ourselves to shine. I appreciate listening to this podcast, and if it has been useful or of interest to you in any way, I would really value, as always, to like, share, follow across your platforms, and even recommend for someone else to have a listen to it also. That would really help us to sort of spread the impact of the work that we're doing at Sunday Settlers. Also, subscribe to our newsletter via sundaysettler.com as well, to be kept up to date with all the work that we're involved in. And if you're feeling a little lost or stuck at the moment, and think you would benefit from an initial call regarding a challenge in your life, call me and quote "Trust Yourself to Shine 10", and you'll receive a 20-minute free intake call, 10% off your first full session with me, and support in between sessions as well to clarify anything that we'll discuss in our sessions. But thanks again for listening, and I look forward to speaking to you next week. Bye for now.